In the last video, we did the fixing of a load of bugs in this process setup. So now we can add items, save, toggle in and out. There's no crashing going on. The only issue we now have, which is an incomplete feature, is if we add multiple items and click save, we're going to get a crash because the IDs currently match. And that boils down to the fact that we haven't yet done the sort order. The ID is formed from the parent process. The action ID, but also the position in that list forms the unique ID. So first we need to correct that, and then we're going to take a look at trying to implement some drag and drop behavior. We'll investigate a few ways, and then we'll try and see where we want to go with it and how far we want to take it. So the first thing we need to do is fix when we want to change this ID. The only way we can add to this list is to click here at the minute. That's the only way we're going to get to adding an item. So we could add the sort order at this point, but then when we add drag and drop and we're moving things up and down, we're going to have an issue with then doing the sort order when we click here, but also the sort order when we drag and drop and change things. So instead, I think we want to listen out for or manage when we update the IDs based on a certain event. So instead of trying to figure out where that is at the minute, let's just start with making the method that can actually do this. So at the minute we have an add action to process, and this is also only going to allow you to add it to the end of the list. So perhaps we update this to give an insert method. So instead of just an add, let's make one and just call it insert action to process. It will want the item, and then we'll pass in, say, a -1 to indicate adding to the end. Then we'll make another method now to override this one, call it the insert action process. And you could even do equals -1, so you don't have to pass in an index if you're just adding, but you probably want to be explicit. Otherwise, there's no point having the insert method. So we'll have an index here. And now we need to update this to make use of this index. So instead of just adding to the list, which happens here, we now need some logic that either adds it to the list or inserts it at a certain spot. We know from previous attempts, if you try to insert into a list that's empty, like 0, we have seen it fail. So we want to check if there's nothing in the list, then we'll add to it instead of inserting at 0. Whether that was a bug in the code before or not, we'll presume it's going to do the same and just purposely check for that. So if the index is less than or equal to -1, so basically if it isn't 0, then, or you could even do that, or you could do less than 0, but I think this is a bit clearer. Then we'd want to add, otherwise we'd want to insert. So then we just copy that line, go over here, and we want to do an insert. And then at that point, you could do inserting to the index. And this should work, but it's quite sloppy because there's no check. If we pass an index of 10 and it tries to insert it and it's out of range, we're just going to crash. So we need a bit more logic. And we can do either checking if the index is out of range, or we could just wrap the index around if it goes out of bounds. Depends what behavior we want. We could say if somebody tries to insert it at position 10 and that doesn't exist, we could ignore it, or we could purposely throw. We might want to just throw if they're trying to insert it in the wrong position. It all, like I say, depends on what you want this method to do. Either throw when it's invalid or smartly catch it and behave semi-normally. So what I think we're going to do is if the index is above the actual count, we'll just add it to the end of the list. We'll treat it like it was potentially just a mistake, and we still want to see the item. So we'll say if the index is greater than the process list dot selected item dot actions dot count. So if we have, say, 1 item in the list and the index says it's 2, then we want to add it to the end. If the item index is 1 and the count is 1, insert will work because it's going to insert it at position 1 on an index of 1 item, so it'll insert it to the end. It's going to be exactly the same as adding, but we might as well let it do the correct job. And then that one other count we want to do is, if you remember, if the process list dot selected items dot actions dot count is 0, then we also want to do an add, because what we've found is doing an insert on a list of 0 caused us issues in the past with I think it was the data binding. So that should now allow us to insert into the list. We're not doing that yet, but if we drag and drop into a certain position, or when we're dragging and dropping and we need to reorganize, that function is going to be useful to do the inserting with a bit of safety checks on there. So let's just check this still works. We're going to have to delete that, save, come out and in, add one back, and now this should run this code here. So we save. So we know that check all works. We get down to here, and now in here the index is -1, so this is ignored, and it does the add, so that's fine. And let's say we wanted to test if this works. We'll do an insert at, say, position 10 on purpose to be inserting past the point it can be. And we add. And you can see the index now is greater than the count, so it doesn't add again. And I suppose what we can do is we could do with some other actions that say something else. Otherwise, we've got no way of seeing the difference. So now if we go into here, we can add, and I'm sure that, oh yeah, we didn't save, did we? That's why it's not showing. If we add to the list and save, and then we add a few more and save, oh yeah, we can't do the save yet. So ignore that, we won't click the save button, but we'll add them. And what we want to do is add, say add 10 items, and that's the point of it crashes when it tries to save. It initially deletes the process and remakes it. So that's why we lose the process if it crashes. That's something that we probably want to fix as well at some point. Save that with one item. Now if we add 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, well, let's add a load. So there's a ton of print drawings. Now if we click this, the add new job, it should insert it at position 10 because we've got it here. So see if that works. We click add on this one, and you can see we scroll down, it's inserted it down here. So we know it's inserting it at the right position, which means we now know the insert function works. So if we now say that we're going to universally use this insert action to process as the call when we're adding to the list, we can do the update of the sort order in here. And then what we have to do is also then invoke the update sort order whenever the drag and drop kicks in. So instead of putting the logic to do the update of sort order directly in here, we're going to have to break it out to a new method. So we'll do a private void, and we'll call this update action sort order so that the drag and drop can call this as well. We're just going to reorganize all of the sort order at this stage. So in here, we're going to also call that update sort order. And the goal of this will be to iterate through every item in the list. So we have the for each var action in process list dot selected item, and we're going to need to check if that's null. So actions, we do something, and in here now, I wonder if IntelliSense can do that auto null check for us. Use conditional access, check for expression null. Yeah, so pressing a few enters, it does it, and it's doing it the wrong way. So we'll do it ourselves manually. It's quicker. Process list dot selected items equals null. Return. That's what we wanted it to do for us, but it didn't quite get there. And then in here now, we want to recalculate the ID. So we also want to set the sort order actually. So if we do the process page view, and we find where we have the actions list. In here, we're currently showing the job name. Let's change that to show, we show the ID that includes the sort order. And let's just check if we can still run this. We should be able to. In the process now, you can see here we've got the ID of this process here. And then we've got a colon here and a 0 and a colon and the ID of the action over here. So the 0 is what we need to update. If we add another one, you can see the parent ID is the same. It still thinks it's in sort order 0, and the ID of this job is the new ID. So you can add those, and you'll get the same ID every time. And you add this one, and you'll get the ID of the other one. So you see that's how it's working, but we need to fix this 0 sort order now. So in here, because the UI might want to make use of the actual sort order property we had, we want to set this first and then update the ID from it. So the sort order should match position in list, basically, which is pretty simple. Process list dot selected item dot actions dot index of the actual action itself. And I believe you can even do to not even have to do that index of. If I can get the syntax right, I think in a for each loop you can do something like that, is it? I can't remember how you do it in a for each loop. I remember doing this. This is right. So what I think we do is at the end. Oh yeah, that's it. You select, because the select has indexes. So see there, you can pass in the model, or effectively the item itself, and an index. So if we do a select on that instead, it then comes back out as an action, and we now have an index. So then instead of doing index of here, we could just do actions is of index. Well, sort order is effectively index, so it shortens that to that. So you can do either method. This just basically gets any list at all, selects the item in the list as F, and then if you put a comma, you'll then get the index as an override option. I think that's just a little bit easier. It gives it more of a conventional for each loop. Now this is complaining at something. Do we have too many? One extra. No, that's right. What's this complaining at? Oh, that's just because we've got one line. It's complaining about redundant braces. Now we've got the sort order. All we need to do is update the ID. And this really should probably be, I don't know, it should be a helper function, because we're setting this ID in a few places now. But each place we set them, it's slightly different. So because when we add it to the list, yeah, we override it. So that's actually a redundant part here. We must have done it at some point to add a sort order, so that can go. So yeah, there is actually no other place for the ID at the minute. So the only place we're going to set it is when we're updating the sort order, which makes sense because the ID's tagged with that. So this would make a good place to update the ID. And that would simply be the action.id equals, and the reason we can't set this as part of this actual property in the ID is because it's a base action view model, which is more generic. So we can't make the ID then match the parent, and we don't have access to that as well. So we have to set it at this upper level. It wants to be the process list.selected item ID, which is the parent ID, colon, and then the sort order. So this will now be action.sort order, and then colon, and finally the action.id itself. And I think if we've done that right, we should visually see the ID update in the list. So we go to here, we add another one of the drawing job. It should just have a +1. So you can see there it's got the 1, add another as 2. We add a different one. This is now 3. Actually, that's adding the wrong. That added the wrong ID. Let me go back and forward a minute. Delete that, add a print only. It's OOFF. Add that, it's FF50. It's adding the wrong ID, isn't it? That's always adding FF5. So maybe that code we deleted was needed. Let's undo that a minute, just so we can go back to where we deleted that. Let's leave that in. I didn't think that was needed, but maybe it was. Maybe it was updating the ID in the first place, but I don't get why we'd need that with a sort order. Right, so that's 07, so that's now correct. Maybe it's from finding the ID. It's updating all of them. So it was right until we clicked add, and then it goes wrong to FF, whatever FF is. So something's completely wrong here now. FF5, FF5. So this is adding the parent ID both times. So what are we doing wrong there? We've obviously done something wrong here. So we can see the ID was right here, the 07 and the FF. So the FF will be this process. The 07 was this thing over here. And we could even go as far as to find out what was actually in the database. So it will actually be the actions print. That's the one we want. So you can see 07 is the print and DDC is the new print job. So 07 is the print. If we add another print, you can see the ID is wrong on the action. So something's wrong with these actions. So the ID equaling here in the available actions, we don't need it to equal sort order. I don't know why we did that. I'm not really sure. I don't even know whether we need to set the ID because I'm sure it's already correct. So let's remove that first. So we're going to here, available action is null. This available action has one. The ID is already 07, so we don't need to set it back to itself. And the ID on the other one is DC. So this is completely not needed. That will just be now a list of items. When we click add, it will click insert. Insert will come in. And we should have now the ID of the copy should just be the ID. So this is also not needed here because that doesn't need to start with the process, because when we then update the action ID, we're going to make it match. So that was the problem. We were kind of doing the logic twice and double injecting. So it gets even simpler. The only time we set the ID is when we update here. So I think this now should be correct. Go to the processes. We can see that one, add another. And now the action ID is currently already set somehow. Oh, that's the first one. The second one won't be set yet. So you can see the second one is currently just the ID. And now what we're going to do is, at that point, it's going to pre-append the ID twice. So now the first one is actually going to be wrong because we are double appending the ID. So you got the FF, the 0, the FF, the 0. So we can't do, we need to get the original ID. If it's already in the list, we need to update the sort order. This is a little bit tricky. So we need to go to the process action view model. We've got the process ID. In here now, we want to store probably the private, and I don't think we need to have access to it as anything in the database. So if we don't make it a property, we should be fine. So this wants to be, what does it want to be? We need access to it, so it's going to have to be public. But it just wants to be a public member. So we'll just do public string, and this will be action ID. And this will be the, what I can do, the underlying action ID. We can now set this. This can be nullable, and we can make use of this property now when we add it where we originally deleted it, which is the return list. So here now, we want to do the return list dot for each, and this will be the action view model. We now want to set the available action, so action view model dot, and then is this process action view model? Yes. So if action view model dot action equals null, continue. Otherwise, the action view model dot action ID, which is what we set it as, it can now equal the actual ID because it's already on the model. And then we're going to repurpose the ID from the action ID afterwards. So store original action ID in the action, store original action ID is enough for the comments. And now when we come down to here, because we're going to be overriding the action ID every time, we want to access the underlying action ID. And we'll probably rework this maybe in future to not do a custom ID this way. But now if we add in here, you can see the first one's already set, but we're going to reset it using the underlying, of course the underlying action ID isn't set apparently. No, we can't do it that way either. Because when we save the item to memory, we lose this action ID. So we would have to store the action ID as a property in the database. So we'll have a process action ID. This will now be a private string action ID, and this can be an observable property. And now we've got action ID in the database, and then that will get committed when we add. So we'll have to delete the database, but when we re-add, this is going to be committed for us, and we remain with the action ID through databases. So let's delete the database. We now need to update that action ID to set it properly. Now let's go to actions, make a new one. So we have the two options. The IDs will now be different, but it doesn't matter. Add a new one, and now in here, the action ID is currently just on its own, but the ID is currently the exact same as the action ID, but the first time you set it now, the ID is now a combined ID, but the action ID remains the same. So that means the next time we come to it, if we save, go out, go in, you can see we've got the parent process ID is C6. This print only drawings is now 7F7. If we add another one, this will already have the ID set, but the underlying action ID, is still null. So it's not commit the underlying action ID still. Process action view model, observable property. Action ID, because we didn't update these. We've updated the view model and not the data model. So we did half a job, basically, that's why. We didn't update the right side. So process action ID, here will be similar to this, and then this one will be now the action ID. And then with that, we also needed to update here. Action ID equals action ID. And in both of these, action ID equals action ID. Now, one of these, I don't think will have the action ID. Yeah, so in the case of making it a process view model from here, which we do in here, in the return list, we don't have the action ID, hence why then we set it here. So that's literally ended up working out well for us. So let's delete the database again, add a new print job, go to processes, add a process, add this item. We know that ID thing works now. We click save, go out and in, click on here, add another one again. The first one this time, the ID is combined, but now hopefully the action ID, there we go, is singular. So if we set it for the second time, you can see it's not doubled up, it's just reset it now. And the new one that's got 1 ends up getting updated to correct. So now this should look correct. So we have an A65 twice with 2 sorts. We add another one. You can see we've got 3. If we save, go out and in, we've now saved all 3. If we add a new print job, you can see it's got the new ID of AEE and a sort order of 3. Go back to the other, and that looks fine. So now if we just revert the visual in here from ID back to job name, and if we undo the add option that we temporarily put as a 10, let's change that now back to -1. I think this will be then good to go. So now if we go to process, there we go. We have all the items in. We can delete them all except the new print job, save, toggle in and out. We have just one new print job. So a quick glance at the database, make sure that's deleted everything. Process action should have 1 in, and it does. And it has that action ID now. So it begs the question now, do we need that ID to have the sort order? Doesn't really now need to be the ID, because we have the sort order, the action ID, the process ID. The unique ID could just be any ID now. So now we've gone that far, the only change is we could make the process action data model, this ID. If we look at how we've done all the other IDs, we set the ID up in action data model, for example. We do this to make a new one. So when we new it up, we end up with an ID. So that means in here, we've got the process action data model already. So it actually already has a unique ID set without doing anything. So we should be able to just not set the ID. This is now redundant, which is one less thing to do, because the ID doesn't actually matter. We have everything we need in terms of, we have the source order. So let's just show that to make sure everything's working. So in job name, we have a label. Let's just change that to, well, let's just add for quickness, just for a quick debug. We've got the process action view model. We'll do in here public string test, and that will be the, we'll do the action, or we'll do the ID and the sort order, or in fact, let's just do the job name. We don't need to see the ID, that'll be in the database. Job name and sort order. That can then just be bound in here quickly to, where's it gone? The test action view model. Are we in the wrong list? No. So that view model is wrong. That's a process action view model. There we go. So now we should be able to see the sort order there. So that actually thinks it's 3. So when we delete the item, we need to update the sort order. But if we add a new one, it will, it hasn't updated that. Well, it will have if we save and go in and out. It can't be tracked because the same ID. Okay, let's just delete the database. Remake the action again. Save that, go to processes, make a new process, add one item and save. Okay, so now we have an issue where the ID is correct. The actions have IDs that are, oh, the ID is set to the action ID. We still set that somewhere. So we've still accidentally left setting the ID somewhere. ID equals that. So this bit now isn't needed. Well, it would be, but what we've done is in the available actions list, available actions view model, this to process action view model, we don't want to save it from an action data model. This wants to be the action ID here, not the ID. The same here. So when it's from a action view model, when it's a direct copy we want to set this up, but when it's a copy from a action data model, we want to set it as the action ID. So now process, new process, add one item, save, there we go. So now tab in and out, we have 0. Now if we add 2, this should work this time. Nope, same again. Cannot be tracked because an instance of ID already exists. So why is that? Let's check the 2 view models. We have an action ID of blank, which shouldn't happen. Action ID of blank and an ID of blank. So the IDs are just non-existent. And I think the issue with that is when we are setting the ID here and cloning, it's fine. When we are creating it from a process action, we've set the action ID, but now because we've newed up here, and this is newing up a view model, not the data model. The data model has the ID set via this here. So we want to copy that. But the view model, if we ever new the view model up, like we've done here, we must set the ID. So I think we just need to repeat the ID set like this. Otherwise, the view models aren't going to have the IDs generated. So hopefully that'll fix the issue with the ID. If we save, go in and out. So now the issue was if we added another one and saved, it crashed. Yes, there we go. Go in and out. Now there's one more issue. This isn't organized by the sort order, which we can fix. Let's just double check the database now looks correct though, with process actions. Yep, so they've got unique IDs each. They have a sort order of 0 and 1, and they have them linked correct. So I think the last bug is when we load the list in, we want to sort by the ID. So that will be initialize process list, get list. So here, return this dot select dot order by, and it can be the sort order. can it? What have we got here? Process view model? No, that's the inner list, so it's not that one. Undo that. It's in this view model. The actions here are to view model, and we select on them. So .actions.select to view model inside order by, there we go. Order by sort order, and we want to order by ascending, which is default. So I think that will work now. So back into processes, there we go. So now we're sorted by order. If we add a few more, save, here we go again. So now the IDs are still wrong. So we've got another problem still. And the issue seems to be the action IDs are still wrong. So action ID 94 and ID 94, they've ended up being the same ID again somewhere by mistake. These shouldn't ever be the same. And I think that last issue is, now we've fixed this to process action view model, where we're now setting both IDs. We've left this in, which was to restore them the old way. So let's delete that again. And now it's cleaner as well in that way. And we're probably going to have to delete. I'll delete the process because all the IDs are going to be messed up. And we'll try re-adding. So let's just delete that process. Yes. Make a new one. Add one. And I've added a little helper in here to visibly see the ID versus the action ID, just so we can double check if this is correct. So now you can see the ID starts with 4B and the action ID starts with 2D. If we check the database, that's for the print only drawings and it matches the name. Click save and go in and out. If we add another one, you can see the second one's got a new ID, but the action ID is correct, and we save and go in and out. So that's now working. So add these again, add them over, save, and we still have issues again. So let's take a look. So if we add more, you can see the IDs changed just about. Save, add another one. So it seems like when we're adding one, it works, but if we add multiple, there's your issue. When we're doing an add, it's reusing the same ID, and I know why. Because every time we add, we do, in this list, where are we? To process action view model, we're setting the ID here, move this out once more, and every time we add an item, we need to reset that ID. Otherwise, it's going to reuse the same ID over and over. So add, in here, we now get an available action. At this point, we've copied. Now we want to give the copy a new unique ID. We'll get there in a minute. So copy.actionViewModel.id equals a new ID. And that is going to be that because we know it's not null due to there. So now we've got 3 in the list. Can we add a bunch? We've got a breakpoint. Oh no, now we've got an issue. Just in the fact that ID isn't set yet visually. So that's probably just our, change that to the full amount. We know the action ID is correct, so we'll just leave it as ID. Process, click a bunch to add. There we go, new IDs for everyone. Save that. In and out, and that's working. That was a lot more work than we were thinking. Now let's revert the process page view from test to job name. Run that again, and we should be able to add a bunch of jobs to this. Now let's delete the whole thing, check the database has wiped all the actions, which it has. Add a new process, save, add one of each, save. We've got 2 in there now. Add a bunch, save, no crashing, in and out, all good. And now what we have is all of the items in there with unique IDs, but with the sort order correctly set now, and the action and process IDs set. So that was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but we have now actions being added to the list. So we'll now move on to the drag and drop stuff next.